Well, a very good morning. What a happy Clary Connors that was. I think it was Burst, the Golden Slipper, a few years ago, and that Burst Clary with his 2-year-old run onto the scene. But a man that's going to burst on here with me right now, Johnny Tapp in Sydney. How are you, John?
Good, Simon. I'm going to burst like that pretty chestnut filly of Ronnie Quinton's, Mamselle Padrille, in the Tasty Pies Stakes yesterday. Wasn't she impressive?
She was very impressive. And that Brisbane Carnival, I think it's been a real success. The Cup was a great race last week, and we saw Desert Chill win that. And we come down here yesterday. It's really winding down, but I think she's a pretty good filly.
Well, she made it 5 out of 10, Simon. Not many horses can boast a 50% winning ratio, and she travelled 3 and 4 deep for the entire journey. There she is in the apricot colours with the white cap. Into the straight, Lady Nightlight and the grey Frisky Lady are headed off by Mamselle Padrille. Look at the stride on this filly. She covers an enormous amount of ground. Miss Sandman in the white colours getting home well, and Sea Winnie with the white blinkers and the pale green colours after being held up for a run. No good making excuses for the others. Look at Mamselle go. She raced away to win by a big margin over Miss Sandman, Sea Winnie third, and Glenn Boss is her regular rider, Simon. He's got a great strike rate on Mamselle Padrille.
Yeah, well, she does show that is a lovely stride. And I think she's by Zoffany too, John. She's probably nearly Zoffany's best progeny so far, and being a filly, she's going to be worth quite a bit of money, so Connections can be quite happy with exactly what Mamselle Padrille is doing at the moment. Mate, in Melbourne yesterday, to be brutally honest, it was bloody cold, and I've got a bit of the flu out of it. And probably what didn't help was the first leg of the double here, mate, the anniversary handicap. We got our brains kicked in again.
Well, Simon, with Fatty Vorton, part owns Elegancy, who's as honest as they come, and that's the reason he carried 57.5 kilos. He's challenging the grey-green sweeper, but both of them are easy prey for Cull Tar. But what's little Elegancy in second place, or about to get to second? He never stops trying. He's as game as Ned Kelly. His record reads 30 starts for 6 wins, 7 seconds and 3 thirds, so he pays his way. But at the weights, Cull Tar was far too good and beat Elegancy, and Green Sweeper was third. By gee, he pays dearly, doesn't he, as far as the handicap is concerned?
Yeah, he certainly does, but I think we'll hear a bit more of Cull Tar, but giving him 5 kilos yesterday, especially on the ground, it's not his best performing ground. I think we were always going to be pretty hard up against it. Now, the second leg of the double in Sydney yesterday was won by Mighty Tango, John. Now, his trainer, Kevin Wallace, reckons there's a lot more wins in him yet.
Well, he's as sound as a bell, Simon, and at the moment he's racing with great relish. That's him running about 5th on the outside, white blinkers and a yellow cap. He's starting to unwind. Palamalawar tackled by Flying Flight on the inside, and now his Mighty Tango joining in quickly. What's the grey horse on the extreme outside? Whiskey Decanter setting sail after him. Mighty Tango's in front. Whiskey Decanter inch by inch wearing him down. Mighty Tango hanging on under his top weight, and he just lasted. There was only a lip in it. Mighty Tango by a nose to Whiskey Decanter, who was unlucky, Simon. He got a pretty hefty check in the middle stages.
Johnny, also there yesterday, not taking anything away from Mighty Tango, but just getting onto the jockeys for a sec. A few of the boys are having a bit of a break. I think 3 of them got outed yesterday.
Including Shane Dye, who got a holiday. Yeah, the stewards had a busy day.
They certainly did. No, you can only hope Mighty Tango, a bloke like Kevin Wallace, he's a lovely fellow, and I hope that that horse keeps performing very well for him. Now, old mate, was he out there in the cold yesterday? Was he, Kenny Callender?
The Professor, he certainly was, Simon. There was a protest upheld yesterday. John Shrek, of course, has moved on to his new job in Singapore. Acting chairman of stewards Ian Patterson apparently sees things pretty much the way John Shrek did as far as protests are concerned, and Kenny Callender had something to say about that protest.
Thanks, John. The most contentious issue in Sydney racing yesterday was the upholding of a protest by stewards on behalf of Grant Cooksley, the rider of Whistle Up, against young Daniel Beasley on Keep the Cash. Now, if you saw the head-on film of the race, you'd realise that the two horses definitely come together. I thought the only possible question mark that the protest wouldn't be upheld was the fact that the winning margin was a half a length. But the interference was definitely there. Young Beasley didn't stop riding, and I think most people expected the verdict. Ironically, Graham Begg told young Beasley during the week that he should learn to use the whip in his left hand. If you don't, said Begg, it might cost you a race. Well, it happened yesterday. However, I think young Beasley's one of the most promising jockeys in Australia. He showed that later in the day on Ramush. I'd stick with him. I think he'll learn to use that whip in both hands, and then he'll really be something to bet on. The run of the day at Rosehill, well, I'd say it was probably Genuflect. The ride of the day, I'd say her jockey, Grant Cooksley. The flop of the day, Hazardous, probably because I backed her. Thanks, John.
And that was the smile of the day by Kenny Callender. Well, Simon, we've left the biggest story till last, and that was the Australian steeplechase at Sandown yesterday. Jumps jockey Brian Constable won the race on Salieri's son, and then he copped a 2-month suspension on an improper riding charge. Now, the last jump is positioned wide out on the track, and Brian Constable in the yellow colours simply thought the rider of the other horse, Lucky Change, wasn't going to give him a clean crack at the last obstacle, so he instinctively put out his arm and said, "Get out of the way, mate, give me a crack at it." It was just an instinctive thing, and gee, I reckon the 2 months is a bit tough. Yeah,
the 2 months is a fair suspension, but I suppose you know, you've got to look at it, and they've charged him with improper riding. He's got 2 months. It's a difficult charge. We'll wait and see if Brian Constable will appeal against that. But I suppose when you look at it and you see contact being made, there's a lot of money up for grabs, and you just never know whether he was just giving him a real little rib tickler just to make sure he grabbed half a length on him before they went into that one, John.
Yeah, I think it was just frustration, mate. I've watched that replay 3 or 4 times. He's got to get something. Sure, he broke the rules, but 8 weeks, a bit tough.
Yeah, 8 weeks, a bit tough. Now, this isn't tough, and it's great for our industry down here. A bit of a news break yesterday. At Talac will be standing down here at Delamere Park Stud, so we're happy as Larry about that with our VOBA scheme, etc. down here. I think it'll do our breeding industry the world of good.
He gets plenty of winners, Simon, and he gets colts and fillies. That's the mark of a top stallion.
Correct, it certainly is. So, John, mark of a top man is I'll see you next week, of course.
Good on you, mate. See you then.
Okie doke. And coming up next, after the break, all the action from this morning's shark attack at the US Open.